Hello everybody, this is GeneralJannis, and today in Death Card Tactics we will be finally reviewing the Helbrute, giving an extensive review and see if we can give it a verdict of hell yeah or hell no to add to our army lists. So with no further ado, let's start. So the Helbrute is an elite choice Dreadnought-like unit available for Death Card and shared with the Chaos Space Marines. It bears also quite a big resemblance with the Chaos Space Marine, for example, that it doesn't have Disgusting Resilience or some other Death Card traits. Before going through, just a small historical parenthesis, the HMS Dreadnought was a revolutionary new design, a British battleship that entered service in 1906 before the Great War, and it had its most prominent feature was that it had an all big gun armament, 12-inch cannons instead of having medium-sized cannons and different size cannons, so it was easier to make targets. And almost overnight it made all the other battleships obsolete. And Dreadnought is English, let's say, fear not, Dreadnought. Fear not. So let's close this historical parenthesis and continue with the Helbrutes. Are the Helbrutes worth considering Death Card army lists? Let's take a look. And basically here you can see these are my collection Helbrutes. I didn't paint those myself. This one I haven't started. So these are some I got from I procured a big second-hand Death Card army, so I had those, but I have not really used them yet, and I'm still waiting to see if I can use them and when and how. All right, let's take a look and start with stats. So if we look at the base stats and the abilities of the Helbrute has a point cost of between 100 to 140 points depending on the weapon configuration. It has a single bracket. It has a movement 8-inch, good ballistic skills and weapon skill of 3+, strength 6, toughness 7, 8 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 8 and 3+ save, but it lacks any invul save, which is probably one of the worst features of the Helbrute. It has the Hateful Assault and Malicious Volleys ability. It has the Battering Onslaught ability, which gives it +1 attack if it's equipped with 2 melee weapons. So then it would have 5, and if you charge, then you could have 6. It explodes on a 6 and gives D3 mortal wounds within only 3 inches. And it has one more ability called Crazed. And at the end of any phase in which the Helbrute got damage through or got some wounds through, you throw a dice, and if you get a 6, you can make a shooting again. You shoot like it's your shooting phase, or if you are in close combat, you can pile in and fight, which could be quite interesting, but it's only, let's say, 1 in 6 chance to get that from happening. So it's a Death Card, and basically it's a vehicle, but it's not a demon or a demon engine. So summarizing, it has some good accuracy, 3+, a decent strength and toughness, and decent mobility. However, the downside is the low survivability with no invul save, no Disgusting Resilience, which it can get for 1 command point. Bear in mind that it's a vehicle unit, and this could be giving the opponent secondary points for destroying. Let's look at the weapon stats. So the Helbrute has 2 arms, and for each arms there are different options. So the one arm, starting with one of the arms, basically the standard loadout is the Multi-Melta. The Helbrute base cost is 70 points, and then the standard is Multi-Melta on one arm and the Helbrute Fist on the other arm. And for the Multi-Melta arm you have 5 options. Basically, so you can have the Multi-Melta, or you can replace it with a Twin Heavy Bolter, the Reaper Autocannon, Twin Las Cannon, Helbrute Plasma Cannon, or you can add the second Helbrute Fist. On the other arm, you have the standard is the Helbrute Fist. You can replace the Helbrute Fist with a Hellbrook Hammer or a Power Scourge, or you can get a missile launcher, so you get both. In that arm you can also have ranged weapon, and you have the possibility to add heavy flamers to any Helbrute Fist. So the one arm has mostly ranged options here, and the other has mostly melee options. And it's possible to build a melee only or ranged focus units, and you can add the flamer to the Helbrute fists. But looking at the ranged weaponry first, the Multi-Melta has the rules now with two shots with the new rules and d6 plus 2 damage at half range. The Twin Heavy Bolter has been upgraded in the FAQ, so it has a strength 6 weapon and damage 2, which is quite good. The Reaper Autocannon has, in the FAQ, has increased the AP from -1 to -2. And then we have the last cannon, the Helbrute Plasma Cannon. And this is a blast weapon, a heavy D3 blast weapon, but an unmodified hit roll of 1 gives 1 mortal wound to the Helbrute. So these are the options and some of the weapons we have been looking before for other units. If we look at the melee units, the standard is the Helbrute Fist, which is quite a good weapon for 20 points if you have one, or 30 points if you get them both. You have a strength times 2, so basically it becomes a strength 12 weapon with AP -3 and a flat damage 3, which is really good. I think against if you want to go melee against Terminators or some other models with a lot of wounds, I think this is quite good. The Hellbrook Hammer, I think it's not so good choice. It's more expensive than the Helbrute Fist. It has the same strength, a little bit better AP, but then you, instead of the straight 3 damage, you get a variable d6 damage, which on average would be doing 3.5 damage, but you are risking to get only 1 damage, let's say. And additionally, it has -1 to hit. So I think the Hellbrute Hammer, the fist is better than the hammer with a -1 to hit penalty and more expensive. So I don't see any reason to get the Helbrute Hammer. The Power Scourge is a 25-point weapon. It has strength +2, so basically it's a strength 8 weapon, which is quite good. AP -2 and damage 2. And the reason you would take this one is because you get +3 attacks with these weapons. So if you equip the one Helbrute Fist and the Power Scourge, you could get 5 attacks with Helbrute Fist +3 attacks with this weapon. So I think this is quite an interesting weapon. The missile launcher is similar to the one that the Mephitic Blightholder has. It can shoot frag missile or crack missile. And for every fist, you can add a heavy flamer, which is a 12-inch flamer weapon with strength 5, AP -1 and damage 1, but it costs 15 points, so it's quite expensive, but it gives you the auto hit. So this is basically a lot of weapon options for both arms. So in order to make it more reasonable to compare and make it easier, I have only selected a few combinations. So I started looking at compared the range weapons for the Multi-Melta arm. So here we see against a variety of targets the average damage, and this is the type of graph I've been using in my analysis. So here we have various targets. These targets over here have 4+ invul save. These targets here have no invul save, and then they are grouped by armor save. So here these targets have armor save of 2+, 3+, 4+, 5+, etc. And for each group, the toughness of the opponent of the target goes from toughness 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And what we can see here is that the Multi-Melta, the blue one, has quite high damage, but also the Twin Heavy Bolter is doing quite good damage, especially against the lower armor save targets or targets with invul saves. The Reaper Autocannon and the Helbrute Plasma Cannon, the gray and the yellow, are a bit lackluster performance, or a bit underwhelming, so I will not continue considering those as an option for this analysis. And the Twin Las Cannon is doing similar damage to the Multi-Melta at long range, but the Multi-Melta now with the new rules at half range has the possibility to do much more damage at half range. So the loadout configurations I have considered for this analysis is the Multi-Melta with the Helbrute Fist, which is the standard configuration for 115 points. 2 Helbrute Fists for 100 points, getting 5 melee attacks instead of 4 with only one Helbrute Fist. The Helbrute Fist and the Power Scourge for 150 points. You can get much more attacks, 5 with the Fist and 3 with the Power Scourge. I didn't consider the Helbrute Fist and the Hellbrook Hammer because I think the Hammer -1 to hit and doesn't give you any benefit, and it's more expensive. I mean, 20 points more to get less damage. Then I have looked at these units, but adding the Heavy Flamers. So 2 Hellbrute Fists plus 2 Heavy Flamers for 130, and Helbrute Fist with Flamer and the Power Scourge for 130. And then I'm looking at 3 basically weapon platforms where the configuration is Multi-Melta plus Missile Launcher, Twin Las Cannon and Missile Launcher, and the Twin Heavy Bolter plus Missile Launcher for 115, 130 and 120 points. But basically already here we can see the Multi-Melta and the Missile Launcher for 115 points. This is basically the weapons that the Mephitic Blightholder have for 100 points, and the Mephitic Blightholder additionally from these 2 weapons. It has 1 more cannon for short range, and it also has a plague weapon melee that's better than just the Helbrute attacking. So I think the shooty options at least are in any case would be more expensive and do worse than the Mephitic Blightholder. But looking at those configurations listed, looking at the long range damage output, average per 100 points, the loadouts with a missile launcher do the most damage here as expected. So we have the Multi-Melta and Missile Launcher here, and then we have the Twin Las Cannon and Missile Launcher and the Twin Heavy Bolter and Missile Launcher. But we can see the Multi-Melta with the Helbrute Fists also does some okay damage here. The Twin Heavy Bolter could be an interesting choice against tougher infantry with damage 2 weapon. When we come into the short range damage output, less than 12 inch, the Multi-Melta options shine with the additional damage they are able to do at short range against multi-wound targets, of course, and the Heavy Flamers come into play. For example, the Helbrute Fist with two Helbrute Fists with 2 Heavy Flamers, but they are not doing so much damage as the other options against a variety of targets. But basically the Multi-Melta with the Helbrute Fist or the Multi-Melta with the Missile Launcher do best damage at short range. If we look at melee only damage, then we can see the best damage is being done with the Helbrute Fist and the Power Scourge. It's where you have 5 attacks with the Helbrute Fist and 3 attacks with the Power Scourge. So this is the best melee option for 150 points. The 2 Helbrute Fists for 100 points is also quite decent. And then we have the Helbrute Fist with the Flamer and Power Scourge. Of course, it's more expensive for the melee damage you are doing. And if you take the Helbrute with 2 shooty, let's say shooting weapons, then the melee damage becomes quite low, and then it cannot do so well in melee combat as expected. Now, adding the point blank shooting plus the melee damage, here we see that the standard configuration Multi-Melta plus Fist does good damage here against the multi-wound target, because you can shoot the Multi-Melta at -1 to hit in point blank, and then you add the melee damage. But here we see again the Helbrute Fist and the Power Scourge is also good, and the shooty options as expected are worse in this category. So just some brief damage tables summarizing some of the things from the graph. For example, if we look at the expected damage versus an aggressor or eradicator type unit with toughness 5, 3+ save, we see that for long range shooting the Multi-Melta and Missile Launcher gives the best damage, at short range also, but when we come to point blank and melee only, we have the Helbrute Fist and the Power Scourge, and the Helbrute Fist with Flamer and Power Scourge. They do a good, decent damage here, best damage, but we see the Multi-Melta and the Helbrute Fist over the board, across the board, does good damage basically for all the configurations. And here it's against a tougher target like a tank with toughness 8. The numbers, of course, the damage is lower, but the relative scoring is quite the same. So summarizing, the best melee option seems to be the Helbrute Fist plus the Power Scourge. The Multi-Melta, potentially replaced by a Twin Heavy Bolter with the Helbrute Fist, seem to be a good all-round option, like the standard configuration of the Helbrute. And the Heavy Flamers do not seem to be worth the cost. So adding for example, instead of 2 Helbrute Fists, you get the 2 Heavy Flamers. Per 100 points, you are getting less damage in melee, and you add a little bit of damage in short range. So I wouldn't consider at least the Flamers. But now coming back to maybe the biggest issue of the Helbrute, the durability. In my opinion, this is the biggest reason why I wouldn't consider it. It suffers from low durability compared to other Death Guard vehicles. It's not like we are comparing it with some infantry or some other maybe lower value targets, but as a vehicle it has quite low durability compared to the other vehicles of the Death Guard army. So the main things is no invul save, no disgusting resilience, only let's say 8 wounds, and only toughness 7 compared to some other vehicles that have toughness 8 and more wounds and disgusting resilience, and they typically have the demonic save. You can give it disgusting resilience for 1 command point. You could potentially get 5+ invul save from the Noxious Blightbringer with Demon's Toll, but then you have to have the Noxious Blightbringer babysitting maybe the Helbrutes, or if you want to use them as melee, he has to go forward with them, and maybe he's not as fast as the Helbrute. So I don't think it's very optimal. And you cannot further boost the invul save, for example, like the demon engines, by using the Ironclad Furnace or other buffs that can be given to demons and demon engines. So if we look at some typical weapons that it could be fired against the Helbrute, so if we have the standard configuration, it could only, let's say, take 5 last cannon shots, and Melta shots from half range, for example from Eradicators, it would take 3 shots, and then it's basically gone. If you add disgusting resilience, you can manage a little bit more shots, but still not so much. And if you have it within the Demon's Toll, you can survive even more shots. But basically, if you have 1 unit of Eradicators shooting 6 shots at you, and you only gave it disgusting resilience, that's it. Basically, the Helbrute, it will blow up. So I think this is the biggest disadvantage of the Helbrute. So some final thoughts and summary. So the Helbrute is the elite choice Dreadnought-like unit available to Death Guard. It can do some decent damage in various configurations. Damage is quite okay. Overall okay configuration, working fine for the Helbrute seems to be the Multi-Melta and the Helbrute Fist for 125 points. The twin Heavy Bolter could also be an interesting choice versus infantry. If you want to have something that's better for melee damage than the Helbrute Fist plus the Power Scourge, giving 8 to 9 attacks, it's quite good configuration. The Flamer option add-on is typically not worth it in my analysis. And as if you want a gun platform, like to have some twin last cannons or multi-melta and a missile launcher, it's definitely less good than the cheaper and much better Mephitic Blightholder. And basically you don't have any plague weapons for added Death Guard synergies. Coming back to the biggest issue is the lack of durability, no invul save and no disgusting resilience, and basically it is a liability if you face an opponent with good anti-vehicle units, for example tanks or Eradicators, etc. So at the moment I would say thank you but no thanks to the Helbrutes, and they still have to wait in the drawer until something better happens. However, they could be getting better and they could be buffed going forward with a new Death Guard codex around the corner, just like the Space Marine Dreadnoughts were buffed. For example, the Space Marine Dreadnoughts, they got the core keyword as opposed to other vehicles, So then they could reroll hits and wounds and other they can benefit from aura abilities. And also the dreadnoughts for the Space Marine Army, they got abilities to reduce the incoming damage, which could really help the Helbrute if it could get something similar and boost its durability. Or we could be even more lucky and get Disgusting Resilience, for example, in addition for the Helbrutes. So with this, it concludes the video. So what are your thoughts about the Helbrutes? Have you had some experience using them? If you do and you have some comments, please leave some comment below. If you like the video, please press like or please press subscribe to the channel, where I will be posting more Death Card Tactics videos going forward. So with these words, GeneralJannis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye bye.